You're listening to the Health and Happiness Podcast with Travis Kemper and
Lauren Maxwell. Each episode, we share easy to implement strategies to improve your health, happiness, and overall quality of life. Exercise is king, nutrition is queen. Put them together and you've got a kingdom. Jack LaLanne. How's it going, Travis?
good. Other than my allergies are killing me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's finally warming up and it's beautiful outside and everything is blooming.
Hence the allergies.
Duke got a nice long hike yesterday at Grizzly Creek, which is one of our favorite hikes around here.
Nice.
And yeah, everything's going well. How's it going, Lauren?
It's going good over here. Today is actually Keely's Gotcha Day. It's April 10th when we are recording this. Yeah, so we got her 2 years ago today, and we're probably going to go to one of her best friend's birthday parties today, so she'll have a fun day playing with some friends. Other than that, we're just packing and cleaning because we get to move into our new house on Friday. We're so excited, but packing is a pain, so I'm going to be really happy to be done with it.
It doesn't ever end.
It doesn't ever end.
Well, the unpacking doesn't ever end. The packing has to end.
The packing has to eventually end, but the unpacking can last years.
Yeah, for real.
What are we going to talk about today, Travis?
Well, after last week's interview with Dr. Emeran Mayer, we decided to have a follow-up episode to break down his recommended diet a little bit more and look at some of the research on it. First, he recommended a largely plant-based diet, not a vegetarian diet for anybody that heard that. His is much more consistent with the Mediterranean diet, which consists of vegetables, fruits, and lean meats like fish and chicken primarily. He also recommended intermittent fasting. Not sure if he actually called it that, but that's definitely what he does, which is limiting the time that you intake food, basically. And that is what we're going to explore today.
Awesome. So what is intermittent fasting? It is basically a broad term that encompasses a variety of programs that manipulate the timing of eating occasions by utilizing short-term fasts in order to improve body composition and overall health. What does it do to your body? It is well known that in humans, even a single fasting interval, basically overnight, can reduce basal concentrations of metabolic biomarkers associated with chronic disease such as insulin and glucose. Evidence is accumulating that eating in a 6 to 8 hour period and fasting for 16 to 18 hours can trigger a metabolic switch from glucose, basically sugar-based energy, to ketone, which is fat-based energy, with increased stress resistance, increased longevity, and a decreased incidence of diseases, including cancer and obesity. Pretty cool.
Yeah. So how would you do it? Well, as Lauren said, it's a broad term, intermittent fasting. There's multiple ways that people do it or have studied it. So one is complete alternate day fasting, which is exactly what it sounds like. You eat every other day. Basically, you eat as much as you want every other day, and no eating on the second day, which sounds absolutely terrible.
Horrible.
I'm not signing up for that one. There's modified fasting regimens, which allow for the consumption of 20 to 25% of energy needs on scheduled fasting days. This regimen is the basis of the popular 5-2 diet, which, Lauren, I don't know how popular this diet is because I've never heard of it before this. It involves severe energy restriction for 2 non-consecutive days a week and normal eating on the other 5 days. Lauren, I'm not doing this one either.
I still, no.
This doesn't sound appealing at all.
Mm-mm.
And then there's time-restricted feeding. I love how they said feeding because I often say at lunchtime that it's feeding time.
It's feeding time.
These protocols allow individuals to consume freely within specific windows, which induces fasting periods on a routine basis. Studies of less than 3 meals per day are indirect examinations of a prolonged daily or nightly fasting period. Lauren, this is basically what I do. So the recommended fast length in time restricted feeding is 16 hours with an 8-hour eating window daily for your consumption of energy. This is pretty much what I've done for the last several years. I just kind of naturally stumbled upon it and it just felt good. And that's what I've been doing.
Nice.
I consume very little other than water before about 10 when I drink a protein shake. And then I try to be done eating by 6 or so. Recently, I've been failing on that. I work until 6, 2 days a week. So
Yeah, that
yeah,
makes it
with the
hard for
commute, I
sure.
don't even get home until 6:30. So I'm usually not done eating until 7:30.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So anyway, so how does this diet differ from normal diet plans? Well, I think most people can figure that out, but normal diet plans are they fail long term, specifically because they're way too restrictive. They're too hard to follow, they're too complicated, they're too restrictive. You don't get to eat the things you like. Intermittent fasting is very simple. You eat from X hour to X hour, but you can eat all your normal food. So you eat whatever you want. You're just restricting the time that you're eating it.
Yeah, makes sense. I've actually never tried intermittent fasting. Like, not formally. Maybe there's some days where, like, my schedule of eating kind of lines up with what an intermittent fasting, at least like the time restricted feeding would be. But I'm curious to see if I like intentionally tried to do it, what it would feel like. Because when I'm not thinking about it, it doesn't feel very hard.
It's not.
Yeah.
It was
Um,
not for me.
yeah, which is great. How effective is intermittent fasting for weight loss? Lots of systematic reviews for this topic. It appears that almost any intermittent fasting regimen can result in some weight loss. 11 out of 13 intervention trials in a recent systematic review reported statistically significant weight loss. I feel like I stumble over that phrase every single time I try to say it. Maybe one day it'll get better. Research to date has not demonstrated that alternate day fasting regimens produce superior weight loss in comparison to standard continuous calorie restriction weight loss plans. Alternate day fasting trials. So, again, this is like eating normally one day and then fasting for the second day and then going back to normal eating. So, alternate day fasting trials of 3 to 12 weeks in duration, which feels like such a long time to like not be eating every other day, but okay, appear to be effective at reducing body weight about 3 to 7%, body fat 3 to 5.5 kilograms, total cholesterol about 10 to 21%, and triglycerides about 14 to 42% in normal body weight, overweight, and obese humans. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. They also studied whole day fasting trials, which honestly, I'm not really sure
What
what
the
the
difference
difference
is?
is.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Because the
It
whole
would
day,
depend. It would depend on the individual study what that means.
yeah, the whole day fasting trials lasted for 12 to 24 weeks, which also showed reduced body weight by 3 to 9%, and body fat, and also favorably improved blood lipids. So again, for the total cholesterol, they saw or not 15, 5% to 20% reduction, and then for triglycerides, they saw a 17% to 50% reduction for that whole day fasting.
And I think an important note here is you said that the alternate day fasting, which is not what I would do anyway, but
Mm-hmm.
the regimens produce superior weight loss in comparison to standard continuous calorie restriction weight loss plans. Those do work, but this
Mm-hmm.
apparently works better.
Mm-hmm.
And we think it's more sustainable at this point in what we found in research.
Yeah. Another systematic review had some very interesting findings. So this one had 27 trials, some randomized, some without control group addressing weight loss in overweight and obese patients. All 27 trials found significant weight loss with intermittent fasting with no serious adverse events. Wow, that's awesome. I apparently didn't read that bullet point yet. Weight loss was 0.8% to 13% across the studies, with time periods of 2 weeks to 1 year. 12 studies compared intermittent fasting to calorie restriction and found no significant differences between groups. However, we know that calorie restriction diets are ineffective for most people long term, like Travis said, due to not continuing and people regaining the weight that they lost quickly. It's hard to maintain calorie restriction diets for sure. 5 studies following patients 6 months or longer following intermittent fasting, and most of them saw increase of body weight 1 to 2%.
So after they stopped the intermittent fasting, so you stop the calorie restriction, and if you lost 13%, you generally gain back at least 13%.
Yeah.
On these, they followed the patients for 6 months after stopping the intermittent fasting, and most of them only saw an increase in body weight from 1 to 2%. So
Oh,
it sounds negative, and it's kind of negative.
But in comparison to calorie restriction, it's a pretty significant decrease in body weight gained back.
Correct. And most listeners that have done those calorie restrictive diets, regardless of who they did it with, they probably have that experience where they lost this weight and it was great, and then they gained it all back the next 6 months or a year.
Studies also found modest improvements in glycemic control found in studies that enrolled patients with diabetes.
So is it safe in healthy, normal weight, overweight, and obese patients? There's little evidence that intermittent fasting regimens are harmful physically or mentally. Findings generally are that hunger remains stable or decreases during intermittent fasting, which is why I've said for myself, it's not hard to do this. Yeah. And that's what they found in the research too. And if it's easy to do, it means it's easy to continue.
Yeah, it's sustainable. I mean, that's right. what you want.
Exactly. Where do I think the research will go in the future? So there's data that are lacking regarding the impacts of intermittent fasting on other health behaviors such as sleep, diet, and physical activity. So we need continued long-term effects investigating these measures. Also, more follow-ups on what is the effect after you stop it, or is it sustainable, and what are the long-term effects of that on your blood measures, blood glucose, your diet or your weight loss, and sustaining weight and things like that. Like I said, I do it. It's been sustainable for years for me, and I've stayed healthy. So I think there'll probably be positive studies.
Yeah. In conclusion, to date, there's no optimally effective weight loss diet that exists for all individuals. But in the short term, high protein, low carbohydrate diets and intermittent fasting are suggested to promote greater weight loss and could be adopted as a jumpstart. Also good to mention is food quality matters in a weight loss diet, aiming to promote health. And adherence is a predictor of success. That's what we've been talking about this whole time, right? Is like, if you're going to be able to do it long term, that's obviously going to make you more successful than something that's you're going to fall off the wagon in a few weeks or months or whatever.
Yeah.
So a challenge for this week would be, if you are trying to lose weight and have struggled in the past, maybe try giving intermittent fasting a chance. Or just like explore the idea of what that would feel like if you're like nervous to start. Like that's where I think I'm going to start, is maybe like seeing what that would look like or how I could fit it into my day, and trying a couple of days a week where I can do intermittent fasting.
Lauren, did you just commit to this?
I don't know.
I'm going to try it. You said it on the podcast.
Yes, I'm going to see if it can fit into what days it'll fit into my work schedule that I can like give it a try. Yeah, why not?
Good.
Let's do it.
All right, good. So we'll have follow-ups on Lauren's journey with
Oh yeah,
intermittent fasting
yeah.
coming up.
There we go. I can
Great
update you
job
guys.
today, Lauren.
You too, Travis.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to listen to this episode of the Health and Happiness Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the episode and are getting benefits from our content.
If your life is improving in part due to the information in this podcast, we would greatly appreciate you sharing the episode with your family and friends on social media and leaving us a review so we can continue to reach more people and improve the health and happiness of the community at large.
Thanks again, and we will see you next week for another episode of the Health and Happiness Podcast.